Today, we're jumping into a really pivotal moment in recent history, the 2014 annexation of Crimea. And we're going to look at it through a specific lens, the critical and honestly often overlooked role that air power played in the whole thing.
So here's the big question, right? How on earth do you take over an entire massive peninsula in just a matter of days? It happened with such incredible speed and precision. So what was the secret? What was the key?
Well, the answer, as our source material makes crystal clear, is this. You control the skies. The whole operation, from start to finish, hinged on air power. And not just for fighting, but as the main way to move troops and take control from the very first minute.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really get how this all went down, we first have to set the stage. We need to look at the chessboard, right? See what the military situation was like in Crimea just before everything kicked off. You look at Crimea on a map and you see a peninsula. But if you're a military planner, you see an island. It's only connected to the mainland by this one tiny little strip of land. It's like a fortress with a single, very narrow gate. So for centuries, this has meant one thing. Whoever controls the sea, and now the air, controls Crimea. Simple as that.
And this right here, this is the heart of the story. You have this massive imbalance. On one side, you've got Ukraine's Air Force, which had been starved of cash for years. I mean, most of their planes couldn't even get off the ground. On the other side, you have Russia. They already had forces there by agreement, sure, but they were also backed up by this huge, modernized military district right next door. Their helicopter units? Almost all brand new. This wasn't just a gap, it was a chasm.
And if you want to see that chasm in a single number, here it is, 15. That's roughly how many fighter jets Ukraine's main unit on the peninsula actually had ready to fly. 15 jets to defend the whole area. Some reports say it was even less than 10. It was basically a skeleton crew.
So you've got this dramatic imbalance as the backdrop, right? The stage is set. Now let's watch how the invasion itself actually played out, because Russia's operation kicked off with a sudden and totally overwhelming use of its advantage in the air.
And just look at how fast this all happened. It starts under the cover of a surprise inspection. Russia gets its transport planes in the air. Then, while those little green men, soldiers in unmarked uniforms, are seizing buildings, a massive airlift is already underway. But here's the genius part. At the exact same time, other Russian troops block the runway at Belbek, trapping all of Ukraine's fighter jets on the ground. Just like that, the air war was over before it could even start.
And this is such a crucial point. Russia didn't do some big, risky parachute drop. That would have been messy. Instead, they used the airfields they already had access to for a massive, lightning-fast airlift. It was basically a Trojan horse strategy. They just flew thousands of soldiers right onto the peninsula, completely bypassing any defenses.
And it wasn't just about moving troops either. This was psychological warfare from the sky. Russia flew in modern attack helicopters to just hover over Ukrainian bases, a clear message. The airspace violations were constant. And through all this, what were the Ukrainian forces doing? Nothing. With the government in chaos, they had no clear orders. So their jets and their advanced air defense systems just stayed silent.
So with Kyiv in total disarray, and Russian forces suddenly everywhere, the Ukrainian air commanders in Crimea were completely on their own. And what they did next, well, it tells two very different stories about what it means to resist.
And then came this absolute bombshell. The new commander of the Ukrainian Navy, just appointed, defects to the other side. And he issues an order to all Ukrainian troops in Crimea, stand down, do not resist. So now, if you're a local commander, you're faced with an impossible choice. Do you obey this order to surrender, or do you follow your gut?
Well, Colonel Igor Bedzai chose defiance. He came up with this incredibly gutsy escape plan. On March 3rd, they got this tiny 20-minute window of opportunity. His pilots scrambled, flying dangerously low along the coast to stay off Russian radar, and they just went for it. And believe it or not, it worked. They got every single one of their working aircraft out of there, an amazing moment of active resistance. Now, over at the Belbek airfield, Colonel Yuli Mamcher faced a different problem. His fighter jets were already trapped, so he chose a different kind of defiance. He led his unarmed men on a march straight towards the Russian soldiers, singing the Ukrainian national anthem. It was his incredible act of symbolic resistance, but at the end of the day, it couldn't save his planes.
So, after the dust settles on these moments of defiance, what's the final score? What are the long-term consequences? Well, what happened next basically redrew the entire military map of the Black Sea.
So on March 24th, the official order finally came down from Ukraine. Everybody out. For those Air Force crews, this meant the heartbreaking and humiliating job of taking apart their own fighter jets and helicopters, piece by piece, so they could be loaded onto trucks and driven away.
And this table just lays it all out in black and white. It's brutal. For Ukraine, it's a story of evacuation and loss. They got 82 aircraft back, sure, but they were in pieces on the back of trucks. For Russia, it's a story of medals, strategic gains, and moving their own modern jets right onto those newly captured airfields. It was a total win for one side and a total loss for the other.
And Russia did not waste a second. Look at this buildup. They didn't just move in. They started building a fortress. We're talking over 100 new combat planes, dozens of new helicopters, and 5 brand new air regiments. This massive, rapid militarization gave Russia this incredible new strategic position in the region. It turned the peninsula into something that our source material describes with this really potent and perfect metaphor.
An unsinkable aircraft carrier. Just think about that image. It's perfect, isn't it? That's exactly what Crimea became. A massive, permanent, fortified platform for projecting Russian power across the entire Black Sea and way beyond.
So you see, the seizure of Crimea wasn't just about land. It was a fundamental reset of the strategic balance of power, all done from the air. And the consequences of that shift are something the world is absolutely still grappling with today.